Uh, okay, so we are towards the bottom of page Mem Aleph. The line starts with an open parentheses, ubatzilus, 5 lines from the bottom, from the wide lines. So we had quite a difficult session last night. But that brought us into a discussion of Oyer HaMislabish Ba'ilamus. What does Islapshus Ba'ilam mean? And the point that was made over here was, it was an unusually difficult concept, and as a result, many people did not get involved in it, could not get involved, did not find themselves in it. Nonetheless, number one, this is part of the mimer that we're learning, and therefore it is incumbent upon us to try to understand it. And more importantly, that understanding these fine elements that are remote from our normal thinking, this is what actually refines our thinking. And this brings out elements from our neshama that we were not relating to prior. We weren't even aware that such thing exists. That be speaking all of a sudden, not about all of a sudden, but something which is out of our realm, of the hasaga of the neshama prior to his descent into the world. Which kind of implies an assumption that there is a means for us to relate and to understand what that is about. The hasaga of the neshama prior to his descent in the guf. So initially, this would be a kind of a dream world, but once having gone through whatever we had to go through to get to that point, we were able to identify the difference between the neshama. The neshama is about the neshama, and how the neshama understands things prior to descend into the world, and how it is after descending in the world.
So what's the exact definition of the word hasaga?
Hasaga, comprehension.
Comprehension.
What I wanted to say, in conjunction with this discussion, Debbie speaks about the neshama, how the neshama is comprehends prior to the sending the word. What does it mean? What does it mean to us? The Mishnah says, okay, I'd like to see that we understand this, even though this also is a little bit remote. Yirah ein chochma. If there's no yirah, there cannot be any chochma. What is the relationship between chochma and yirah? Yirah, one would say, is an emotional thing. Chochma is above emotion. It's higher than that. You mean yirah and chochma? Without going into great details, what this is telling us is, despite the fact that chochma is, like we say, chochma is like re'iyah, like sight. And sight comes to us automatically. Anything that's visible, we see. We don't need any prior preparation for sight. That's the way it appears to us. But as we discussed many times, this is not the truth. It's not a lie, but it's not the truth. Because what we see automatically, effortlessly, and we accept it as, oh yeah, I see it, it's not due to the fact that we see it with our eyes, but it is due to the fact that we know internally, like in yirah and chochma, we know internally that there is a reality that to be seen. We don't find out reality by the fact that we see it. This is what the Rambam says, that the first principle is that there is, the first principle in human thought, in human knowledge, in human pursuit, is that there is a first being. And if Chas v'Sholom there is not that awareness, that relationship to the first being, then you cannot see anything. Literally, in other words, the true definition of sight is, like we said, is effortless, because you're part of it. The definition of sight, as it is presented by secular science, is not really sight at all by our definition. Some kind of an energy hits our eye, and it disturbs the piece of eye. It's like hearing. It's no different than hearing than touch. And the reason they interpret it that way is because imen yirah ein chochma. If there is not a knowledge, a cognizance of the first being, then there cannot be any sight. In other words, re'iyah is hamahus, seeing the mahus, and then hasog is hamahus. This is all dependent, totally dependent, and all a result of what kind of truth one is aware of prior to that experience. We do not derive truth from our experience. Truth we know from the neshama. We know it because we know it. Because the Rebbe is giving us that truth.
What does the experience contribute if the truth is known?
The experience contributes to conscious knowledge and ultimately leading to functioning in the world and fulfilling one purpose in the world. It does not contribute to making us human beings. We are human beings by the divine creation. Animals also see. They don't become human by seeing. A lifetime of animal vision does not make it any more human. Thus, on that basis, the Rebbe goes in and starts talking to us in terms of what is the hasogas haneshama in Gan Eden prior to coming down into the guf. Clearly, it's the neshama in the pure neshama prior to coming down into the guf. All it knows is the truth is the godly truth. And therefore, it can recognize and relate to the Oyer Leki without effort. Because it is part of it. There is no obstruction for the neshama. However, the Rebbe points out, that understanding and that knowledge, even though it's knowledge hamahus, hasogas hamahus, and so forth, it is only the ha'ora. In other words, that which can be mislabish in world. Let me put this in very simple terms. We discussed last night. Mislabish in world means you can make sense of this ha'ara. You do not have the hasoga in etzem ha'ir, because etzem is that which cannot be made sense of. They cannot put it into seichel perception.
Wait, the neshama before the guf only has ha'ara, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. That's what he says. That's not I'm saying. That would be presumptuous.
Okay, we're saying that which can be mislabish into
Zehu rak beha'ora.
Even though it's prior to any involvement with world and guf.
That's right. But it can only have the hasoga in oid that goes through his ubatzilus and has and ultimately comes and he says it becomes part of world. Becoming part of world means that you can identify and explain what this is about and what it is for. Etzem cannot be identified in those terms. Like in our moshel, the king and the ranking officers. Every officer stands for something, no matter how great and dedicated he is. The melech there's no definition for his presence.
Well, I mean, usually we think of the neshama as like basking in the glory of God.
That's right.
And that would be, it's sort of direct apprehension rather than.
No
only
question
the
about
level
it. It's because, absolutely, basking in the glory of God and so forth, it is all that which can be absorbed from an observation perspective, from a worldly perspective, a high world, ruchnistic world.
But again, why world? Because the neshama at that point is cleaving part of Elokus. I mean, how does world even?
Okay, what is a world in this in this terminology? Her world versus etzem. This is like the general versus the king. There's an episode in Tanakh. There was a war. David HaMelech in early years used to go out to war together with his soldiers, with his generals. And it was a very heated war, a very dangerous war. And Yahya ben Tzruya who was the 5-star general for David. He was conducting the whole war. Then he goes up to David and says, "You must go home. We cannot be. It's too dangerous for you to be here. We can't afford losing you." David is not. In what way is David contribute to the war effort? He's not directly involved in it. And Yoav ben Tzruya, he was all capable of conducting the war. As a matter of fact, he says, "You go home. This is for the benefit of our war effort." Because the contribution of the king in all aspects of the land, of the country, does not consist, it cannot be interpreted in any kind of a functional manner. So you staying in the palace and you sitting here in the front line, it's not necessary. We'd feel much more secure if you were in the palace. How does that strike you?
I'm not sure if I get what it's illustrating. That is,
that there is an oil that is not mislabish in world, and there is an oil that is mislabish in world. And the difference is this is called etzem oil, and this is called ha'or of the air.
Does it address why the neshama is only exposed to ha'ara even before it's in growth?
Well, this we addressed last night. The ha'ara, the neshama, as it is before it establishes in the goof, the neshama understands things by virtue of what it itself is, not by virtue of its maker, so to speak, of its relating to the king.
I mean, it's almost as if to say it is gufni on its level. It's relating. It's
ruchni.
Right. It's kind of.
We said before, by the beginning. The Dover Gashmi, this is more the Mahus Adover than Dover Ruchni. And we explained all along. The Indian that the king is necessary that it occupies a room in underground. Like we said yesterday, the general is interested security and peace. The melech is interested the territory. We brought out when the Alter Rebbe is describing the war between the Nefesh Elokis and Nefesh Abamis in these terms exactly. It's not two Melochim nilchomim on an idealistic level. That's not the way Alter Rebbe explains it. Two Melochim nilchomim al ir achas. They're fighting over ownership of a city. It's a territorial war. War.
They're essentially different.
Yeah, on an essential level.
And then the nimshal here is...
They're different. They're opposing one another.
Yeah. And the nimshal there is that Nefesh Elokis cannot tolerate the presence of Nefesh Abamis in its territory. And it needs to be able to declare this my territory uncompromisingly. right. That's inside the mashal. The nimshal here, we're saying, Neshama, before it's mislabish in a guf, is privy to ha'ara levad.
Right. Doesn't have any opposition. Doesn't have to fight for its comprehension.
Right. Again, right. So therefore, if you think it'd have more than a ha'ara. That's all. There's no obstacle that is to overcome. There's no concern with world or circumstance. There's no resistance. Why just ha'ara? Why not? And specifically ha'ara that will be mislabish in good. Right? That's the statement.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. I would hope that you. Okay, let me explain to you. In the Maimar, Boshi Lagani, the original Maimar Boshi Lagani, and then further in the Remes Maimorim Boshi Lagani, Rebbe explains that there is a midot, there are all kinds of mitzvahs, in Chassid Kvut, and there is a mitzvah netzach, nitzochen. Mitzvah nitzochen means to be victorious over an opposition. And mitzvah nitzochen brings out an essential part of the neshama that does not express itself under normal circumstances. In other words, the challenges of the Nefesh Abamis, the challenge of the Yetzer Hara, bring out koiches from the Nefesh Elokis that normally would not express themselves. And this is how the Nefesh Elokis ultimately is capable of working with the world, transforming the world. What does Nefesh Elokis have to do with the world? It's not interested in the world. So, B'chinas is slapshus bo'elam. This is what we spent time last night a lot, and it was very tedious, and many of us were not able to really concentrate on that level, at that time. We're tired. The point is, like you said, anything that can be slapshus bo'elam is bo'elam. We give an example. It may be very tired of this example, but it's very clear. It exposes the Ayin very clearly. That a table is really something which very human, and it essentially addresses the human dignity. But the way we relate it, the way we understand it, is not exclusively on the human being to be explained. They understand it the way it is actually mislabish in the world. How is it mislabish in the world? The ultimate mislabish in the world is that it facilitates ease of use. Ease of access.
Definitely sounds like that. When you learn that message, it sounds like sorrow isn't for life.
Which is mamash a simple, practical, world level presentation. This is the ha'ara of this inyan of a table. The essential inyan is much higher. But what do we actually fully understand is that ha'ara. I said, we have something. You have to have something inside, and this is 5 lines from the bottom, the white lines. It's an open parenthesis. Ubatzilus. In Atzilus itself, what then has the Hasoga of the Neshama in Atzilus? Yesh Leimar. What can be said about it is Zehu Rag Behaora Meyores Atzilus. Now this comprehension is only in the Haora of the Oires Atzilus. Loi Be'etzem Ha'or. Not in the Etzem of the Oir. The Neshama's understanding, comprehension, this is, we're not going to go too deeply into this. The Neshama in Atzilus has full comprehension in the Mahus and so forth, but only the Ha'ora of the Oires Atzilus. Loi Be'etzem Ha'or, not in Etzem Ha'or. Me'achar. Since Yotzu V'nifredu Me'akelim, since that the Neshamas already came forth, Nifredu, they got separated from the Kelim. The Kelim, the Atzilus, they received the oil in full. But the Neshamas, they are rooted in the Kelim, but they are very separate, and therefore they are able to comprehend only the Ha'ora of these oils. Okay, let's continue. Aval Etzem Ha'or, but the essence of the oil, Ubederech Klal, which brings us to an overall a general reference. The oil that is above being able to be mislavish and able to imbue itself and to relate and to give a worldly perspective. That is not possible for the Neshama to comprehend. Who bibchinas, the Neshama knows about it, but bibchinas in a manner of ideas hamitzius levad. It is in the manner of ideas hamitzius of knowing the mitzius, not hasogas hamitzius, and not re'iyas hamitzius. Ideas hamitzius. The knowledge means like we said before, I know there is a king in the palace, but it's not the same as being in the presence of the king. The king is always present. But in the presence of the king, you couldn't do those things that you have to do. When the king is in his palace, you still know that there is a king, and this gives you enormous inspiration, enormous strength Like Yoav and Surya said to David, you go to your palace and we'll derive strength from your being in a palace. But it's only in the matter of ideas Ametzias. Because this cannot be mislavish in the world. And with this we are going to interrupt. Have a great day.
Oh, you're here today?
Rude.
Oh, so nice.